Here is a chord that refuses to pick a side. It isn't bright and happy. It isn't dark and sad. It sounds like it's holding its breath, hanging in the air, waiting for something to happen. Play it on its own and you feel a gentle pull, as if the chord is leaning forward, asking a question it hasn't finished. That open, unresolved color has a name. This is a suspended chord, and the whole trick behind it is beautifully simple. In a normal chord there is one note quietly in charge of the mood, the note that tells your ear happy or sad. A suspended chord does something bold, it takes that note out entirely and puts a neighbor in its place. Remove the mood, and what's left is pure tension and air, a sound that wants to move. Composers reach for it constantly, in song intros, in big chorus hits, in film scores, whenever they want that feeling of suspense before a release. So let's find that one note that carries the mood, pull it out, and hear exactly what happens. Start with the chord we already know, plain C major, C, E, G, 3 notes, stacked in thirds, and it sounds bright and resolved. Now here is the key idea. Of those 3 notes, the root C and the 5th G are the skeleton. They give the chord its body, but they stay neutral, on their own they don't sound happy or sad. The whole mood lives in the middle note, the third. On C, that third is the note E. Move that one note and you change everything, leave it alone and the chord keeps its major brightness. So the third is the single note carrying the chord's emotion. It is the switch. A suspended chord is what you get when you flip that switch off, when you take the third out and slot something else in beside it. Keep your eye on that middle note, the E, because everything we do next is about lifting it out and replacing it. Let's build our first suspended chord by pushing that middle note upward. We keep the root C and the 5th G exactly where they are, the steady frame of the chord. Then we take the third, the note E, and we move it up one step to the next white key, the note F. F is the 4th of the chord, so this is a sus 4. The chord is now C, F, G. Listen to how different that feels. The cozy, settled third is gone, and in its place that 4th leans hard against the 5th right above it. The 2 notes sit close and rub, and the whole chord pulls tight, tense and unresolved, like it's straining forward. It doesn't sound wrong, it sounds expectant, full of forward motion, a chord clearly on its way somewhere. That's the sound of suspense, and it comes purely from swapping one note a single step. Now let's go the other way. This time we take that same middle note, the third, and instead of pushing it up, we drop it down one step to the white key below. The note D. D is the 2nd of the chord, so this one is a sus 2. Again the root C and the 5th G never move, only the inner note changes. The chord is now C, D, G. And listen, this is a completely different flavor from the sus 4. Where the sus 4 felt tight and straining, the sus 2 sounds open, airy, almost weightless. The notes are spread out and the chord floats, calm but still curious, like a held breath that feels relaxed rather than tense. Same idea, the third removed and replaced, but a note in the other direction gives you wide open space instead of leaning tension. 2 suspended chords, 2 moods, both of them neither happy nor sad. So where does all this tension want to go? Here is the real magic of the sus 4. We have C, F, G, that tight, leaning, expectant chord, and your ear is begging for relief. Give it one tiny move, slide that 4th, the note F, back down a single step to E, and the third returns. In an instant C, F, G becomes plain C, E, G, ordinary C major, and you feel the whole thing relax, the breath finally let go. That is tension and release in its purest form, built from one note moving one step. This is why intros and big chorus hits lean on it so heavily. The suspended chord coils the spring, holds you waiting, and then the resolution snaps everything back into place and lands the moment. Once you hear that sus 4 sliding home to the major, you start noticing it everywhere, in pop, in worship music, in film. It is one of the most satisfying small moves in all of harmony. So that's the whole story of suspended chords in one line. Remove the mood, add motion. You take the third, the note that decides happy or sad, and you swap it for a neighbour. Push it up to the fourth and you get a sus 4, tight and leaning. Drop it down to the second and you get a sus 2, open and floating. In both cases the chord stops sounding happy or sad and starts sounding like it wants to move, which is exactly why these chords love to resolve. They aren't a destination, they're a doorway, a moment of suspense on the way to somewhere settled. And notice what we did here, we changed a chord not by adding notes, but by replacing one. Next time we go the other way and start piling notes on top of the triad, stacking one more third to reach the seventh chords and the lush extended sounds behind jazz and soul. More notes, more color, same simple idea of stacking thirds.